Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast, where we have open conversations about building a property business that creates cash flow and freedom from those that have been there and done it. So for myself and Dave, we've done now over £18 million of deals, raised millions of pounds of investor finance, and we like to share not just the highs, but also the massive challenges that have presented along the way. And this week is no different. I'm joined by Ginny Lean and Jeremy Grigg from Sowena Property, who have sold over 75 property deals to investors for fees totalling over 250,000, and they have a mixed portfolio across Cornwall and the Northeast, and they are here today talking about avoiding overwhelm by getting the right team and systems for your property business in place. A really wonderful conversation. These are two beautiful human beings. I'm really excited to share this with you. So without further ado, here is myself, Ginny and Jer. Hello, Ginny and Jer.
Hello,
Morning.
Jackie. Morning.
Amazing. I'm so excited for our conversation today. You guys are such important people to me, and I have had such a privilege of watching you guys over the last, since the middle of COVID, really, working with you and just watching the progress and seeing how you guys have evolved and the business has evolved. It's just been an absolute joy to watch all that happen. So I really just wanted today just dig into some of what I see as like the key themes that have come up over that time, which for me is obviously focus has been a real big thing. So I want to dig into focus with you guys today, but also obviously you are similar to myself and Dave, you know, business partners and life partners. And Ginny, you've obviously come into the business as well, with Jeremy being the one that started it. So to explore what challenges have come up there and how you guys, I think, are finding more and more enjoyment in the process of doing all of this than I've ever seen before. So I think today, we were just talking before to say our topic is focus, peace and joy for today. So do you want to just kick us off by just telling us just a bit about what you guys do in property? Just give us a bit of context.
So if we're going to start with focus, I'll tell you what, Jenny, why don't you start?
Oh, thanks, Jer.
We're talking about
It's the perfect example, isn't
partners
it,
in business.
of working together. Absolutely. So at the moment, Jackie, as you know, our main focus is on our lettings business, which is we are focusing on building this, which has come about after a long journey in property. As you know, we started deal sourcing and deal selling in the early days, and we moved on to doing some buy, refurbish, refinance projects. And we're now realizing that we'd actually created probably quite a lot of chaos in the early days, which is why we've realized that focus is so key.
I love the fact you said we then.
Yes, yeah. And when we met you, Jackie, it was clear that we didn't really have much strategy. We didn't have much focus, and that's where you certainly helped us. So yeah, we've come from a place of learning the ropes in property, as it were, building our property business through investments, and now we're focusing on the other end of it, on the lettings, which seems to be working.
Really nice. And geographically, just tell us where you are in the country.
So I'm based in sunny Cornwall, although it's not quite so sunny today, but I'm based in Cornwall, and Jer is in...
So I'm up in Northeast Links, where the main portfolio is, but we're proud to be Cornish born and bred through and through. And it's an absolute honour to be building this lettings business, which we've dabbled with, if I'm honest with you, in the past, Jackie. But now the focus has been absolutely paramount for us. And as a mentor, I think you must have had elements of frustration because, you know, you only get it when you get it, right?
And you guys are mentors as well, right? Like you do a lot of, you mentor hundreds of other property investors as well. So you sit on both, well, we all do. We sit on our mentor side of the table and the mentee side. Yeah, it's...
I think that's a really important part of our journey, because actually what Ginny hasn't mentioned, before property, we were both teachers. And sometimes I stand on stage at Samuel Leeds events and I'll say things like, we've had 45 years of teaching experience. When you look at it, you think that's a whole lifetime before we got into property. And there's a lot of transferable skills, but I think the mentoring, and I speak for myself, but I've said this to Ginny before, the mentoring of other people, and they say you only get it when you can teach it. And, you know, actually, I know mentoring is different to teaching, but actually speaking to lots of people about the journey has certainly embedded a lot of things, even though for you it must have been almost pulling your hair out, because I really struggled with focus. I get it,
Mhm.
fully on board, and I went through that period of I get it, but I can't implement it.
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, the implementation. Yeah,
So
And what
absolutely.
was it that you found so hard about focus, Jer? Can you, because I think you really get it now, and like I think we all still struggle with it, right? Because we see everything that we see around us that we aren't doing looks a heck of a lot easier than what we're doing, because actually we don't get to see all the crap that's going on underneath the surface. There's challenges with everything. Like looking back at yourself now, a few years ago, what do you think that challenge was with focus?
So one thing, it's being aware of it, but the thing that really cemented it for me was, so we did the wealth dynamics profiling. I did mine in 2018 and was raving about it. And then of course went on to other stuff and let it go. Now, after coming and joining the DMA community and actually working with you guys, and with you not only having a very deep down understanding of the wealth dynamics profiling tool, but actually you implementing it across your whole team, that started to then, even for me, it went, ah, right, there must be something to this. And, you know, Ginny and I had talked a long time about nurture and nature and how much is actually you, which of course we've gone on to take to a much deeper level now with human design and the retreats and all the exciting stuff that comes from it. But the basic cementing for me was realizing, okay, you're going to have a profile of who you are. And I remember saying to you once my profile came back, because I had quite a rounded profile, bizarrely, and you said, but you're 46 and actually you've done this for a long time. And actually, when you take the test, you could take the test again in 12 months or 18 months, and it could be slightly different. But for me as a creator, um, it was almost an acceptance of, all right, that's cool. Because actually, in certain circumstances, that really serves me and it allows me to come up with solutions. It allows me to think about the bigger picture, and having that deep down understanding. And of course, that I have share the same profile as Richard Branson was quite helpful, actually. But for me, it's one is an acceptance. Another thing is an understanding. And then it was the cementing of, okay, so I've got mentors now, people that I follow that are not only aware of this, but they're implementing it across their team. And we've done likewise. So it took a
Mm.
bit of time, but that for me, wealth dynamics and understanding that for me, focus is something that is a challenge because I love creating new opportunities.
And which bridges that so nicely to like Ginny and how you fit into all of this now. Because I think when we first started working together, you were still full time in teaching, and that's been
Yes, I
something
was.
that we've kind of so how has that transition worked for you coming into the business and working full time in that together? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was really hard, Jackie. And if I go back to when I was full time in teaching and Jer was full time in property and he was doing a lot of traveling and I was full time teaching, which is obviously very time consuming and sort of all consuming. Jer was away. I was doing my very, very best to support him with aspects of the business, but it was hard. And I think eventually we got to a point where we knew that I had to make the jump, or I wanted to make the jump, which is where we got to. And when I did make the jump, it was a real kind of wow. That all of a sudden, I don't know, there was some expectation that it would just be seamless and it would just be easy, and that this is great. We've now got all this time in the world to run this business that we've set up. Yeah, let's get on with it. And I think to start with, it was a real period of adjustment, let's put it like that, because I couldn't understand why Jer and I were clashing so much at the very, very beginning. And I think, as Jerry said, the wealth dynamics was an instant kind of relief because it was a clear understanding of the fact that he wasn't, well, I can't even say the word, but he was actually okay. He was a creator. That's what he did. He created lots and lots of ideas, constantly wanted to talk about the big picture, the strategy of our business, where we were going to be in however many years' time, what this was going to look like. And all I wanted to do was just get on with stuff and just do stuff and work my way through my list and analyze things and research things. And it became clear that I was a very different profile to him. And it turned out that I'm an accumulator lord, which I believe is a similar profile to Dave. So that was instant kind of right, got it. So from there, we were able to start working out where our strengths actually laid, and that these weren't hindrances, they were actually superpowers. And I think we've really, really learned to lean into it. And although sometimes we do forget, it is always there as an underlying reminder of, yeah, well, it's no good asking me to do that particular thing or to enjoy that. I don't feel in my flow with it. I know I need to do this. I know I need to look at the big picture for the purpose of the business and for building. But I'm far more comfortable when I'm working on the stuff, the operational, which is where
Ginny,
I
you
find
you
myself.
had it double whammy really because you were fantastic. You made our deal sourcing business compliant. You were doing the back end of stuff. You were doing stuff that you were really good at and squeezing it around a full teaching timetable.
Yeah.
But with my non-awareness of being at that point a creator, I actually JV'd with another creator and we created double chaos. And
Create a sandwich.
exactly. Ginny, you're in a creator sandwich.
I
What a
remember
beautiful
it
place to
well,
be.
Claire. I remember it well.
And
My poor little
Just let me do
adored
stuff,
side.
guys.
Yeah.
Let me get on with it. No, let's do
My
new
inner
things.
lord was screaming.
and do you know, I think sometimes over the last kind of 5 or 6 years since Sowena started, do you know, I think sometimes we've looked for reasons to beat ourselves up and to say that just hasn't damn worked and blah, 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 and Ginny, why can't you do this? And you're saying, why don't you do that? And do you know, it is all part of the process, but that I think that for me it was like when I realized it, it was like, oh man. And I hate that word regret. And do you know, it wasn't a regret, it was a learning, it was an absolute learning. And without that creator mindset and JVing with another creator, do you know, we wouldn't have had assets, we wouldn't have had, so the buy refurbishment finance projects, they were awesome projects. And do you know, they're running as HMOs up in Northeast Lincolnshire, and that allowed us to spiral off and do other stuff in Cornwall. But it was about the timing and about being realistic with setting that whole goal setting process, you know, looking at reverse engineering, looking at what you're doing on a week to week basis and stuff that you've really ground into us. Which sounds negative, but it's not. It is just about doing it, and it's about not worrying what it looks like, which was another massive thing for me personally, was that perfectionism. If I'm going to do something, I've got to do it perfectly. And even to the goal setting, it was holding me back. I wasn't able to set goals properly because they had to be perfect. I had to be mapped out. I remember Ginny and I did that first development plan back in 2018, I think it was. And it was the most beautiful development plan. I think Ginny did little flowers around the outside and
You're
and we looked at it and stuck it
exaggerating.
in a drawer. And then I just proceeded for the next 8 weeks just to chase shiny objects and to allow my creator side, you know, to run wild. However, there was no focus on what we were looking to achieve in the business at that point.
It's been really interesting for me watching. I think probably particularly for you Jer. I guess it felt kind of like almost like you were a bit of like a pressure cooker of all these ideas that you had started over the years and gotten to a certain point. And then, as you're saying, like the pressure that you're putting on yourself to go faster, to do more, for it not being good enough. It's almost like it just created just this like constant tension that was clearly exhausting for you, right? Like, just I'm not doing enough, I need to do more, but I can't do more. And this kind of like cycle. And I think this is what has been probably one of my favorite things to watch you go through over the last few years, is starting to be kinder to yourself, to kind of an acceptance more of where things are, to choose the things that you're going to let go of and some of the things that you're going to keep focusing on more, and to accept that it's okay to not know exactly the perfectly step-by-step plan to getting there, and that balls are going to drop along the way, and that sometimes you get ill and it won't go how you want it to do, but just that this kind of more kindness and compassion for yourself and where you are, and I think maybe forgiving some of the stuff that you're looking back on and being harsh to yourself for, starting to let go of some of that, has just created this. I just think this is such a more loving, kind, beautiful energy that just comes out of you these days, mostly, and it's just yeah, just a much more peaceful calmness to what you're doing. Not always, but a lot of the time. And I think it's just making generally the whole process just a lot more enjoyable now for you than it was before. What do you reckon to that summary of the last few years?
But do you know what? Thank you so much, those kind words. And do you know, I don't forget that we've known each other for a long time, but for you to summarize that, and for me, I used to say contentment. It's about contentment. I want to get contentment. And contentment to me means 25 HMOs. And it means this is a single and this service accommodation. And Ginny, why aren't we working towards it? And actually, let's get an educational group to go, la, la. And it was exhausting. And I feel genuinely emotional as I sit here. And you know, I'm a big man. And for years, I've done very Neanderthal kind of sports. And that emotional side I've always known is inside, but it's seeping out and pouring out in different ways. And the emotional freedom now, which you speak so fondly about and have supported us on that journey, it makes the journey so much more enjoyable. And you know, one of the things with perfectionism, and you know, you and I have spoken about this because it's a belief or it's something that you've really worked on to change in your world. It's like I needed perfectionism with personal development. It's like, oh my God, I need that and I need that now because that's so freaking awesome. And let's implement that. And oh, by the way, have you done all that with the HMO and you've done that? Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, whoa, this thing about being a life's journey, that's in there now. It's in there. It's not concreted in, but there's a light cement finish on it. And it's like, it's pinned there at the moment. And it's something that I really, really want to work on. And bizarrely, my mum was a psychotherapist and was telling me all about this when I was 8, 10, 12 years of age. And now it's coming back. I actually had to come back to her and say, hey, look, mum, you know, I apologize that it's taken me 35 years to get to this place, but this is where I am now and it's fun. And for us, all right, for me, I will let Ginny speak in a moment, but for me, it's like, okay, there's a point to the journey now. There is people say, doesn't matter who you are, if you're just somebody with one buy to let, or you know, you've somebody who's got a portfolio of 20 properties, or you've got hundreds of properties, or you've got thousands of properties, there's always somewhere else to go. And unless you can get to a place of working out why you're doing this, you know, and I'm sure we're going to speak about different tools and stuff that we've implemented, but I absolutely love that part of the journey. And I'm letting go and actually really starting to feel whatever you say, content, emotional freedom. Do you know, it's still a battle because we go back into old ways. And do you know, slowly over time, it becomes, that's the thing. I think you said to me about trusting the process at one point. Just trust the process. And my word for this whole year was came from a book called The Surrender Experiment, and it's about surrendering. And I speak to Dom a lot about surrendering, and that's been so tough for me. It's been like, okay, the way to get stuff is to work fucking hard and to take it at whatever cost. But actually surrendering and trusting that process and trusting the fact that you set goals and that you are a hard worker, but actually, what's the point of this? And actually starting to enjoy a downtime as well. And Ginny and I still work really hard because we choose to at this moment in time. But actually, if we sat down, and I'm sure Ginny will speak about the lettings, but Ginny's almost taken on a full-time role as a lettings manager. And Ginny doesn't want to be a lettings manager for the rest of her life, but it's something that's at this moment in time, she
What
can.
life is presenting.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, it's I think it's been amazing to see, because you guys have been through us really through this whole journey of, like, when we first started working together, I was all about the practical implementation of the strategy, and you guys have been a huge gift in terms of the direction that we've ended up going in. Like, partly it is because of you guys and me seeing where you are struggling and how Dom's come in, and that's changed the game for me and Dave personally. You've watched that change in us and we've passed that on to you guys, and it's just been an amazing experience to realize how much more joyful this can all be with all of its messy challenging, never exactly going in the perfect direction, and realizing actually that's totally okay. And I can just like exhale now, and just seeing how, and maybe you can share some examples in a little bit about just the good stuff that shows up when you stop trying to make the good stuff show up, like it's already there. So Ginny, I would love to come to you. And obviously that's been like, you've been first-hand experiencing that journey for Jer, and him like pushing and striving in this perfectionism. Like, what has that kind of, how has that been for you, having to be on the other side of that? And how have you found, started to find yourself alongside Jer?
Yeah, good question. Good
Been a
question.
joy, Ginny, isn't it? It's been a joy.
It's been a joy, absolutely. But despite the fact that we're obviously in our life partnership, we love each other, we enjoy our time together, and all of those things. Learning to be in business together has been a whole different ball game, and I think sometimes it's been hard to separate the two things, because we live together, we work together, we work from a home office, we travel together, and all of those things. So it's always there, and I think in the early days for us, it was about trying to create boundaries, and actually try and make sure that we had times where we switched off from business, and put some simple rules into place to enable that. But going back to actually sort of adapting to working together, and understanding Jer, he's always been so driven, so massively driven, and had this really clear idea of where he wanted to be and where he wanted to take the business and all of those things, which I absolutely loved and admired. And without that, our business certainly wouldn't be where it is, because he has been in that phase of, whatever it takes to get there. For me, I'm a hard worker. I love throwing myself into things. I love learning new things. I've got a practical approach to most things, rather than maybe a visionary approach. I'm pretty far more practical. And just, I do have a more kind of inner contentment than Jer, I think. And I think we've known that from the start. And I've been far more, let's just enjoy the day. Let's, have some time off now. Let's do this. We deserve it. Let's go out for dinner, or let's do that. And Jer has been more, are you serious? We've got this to do. We've got that to do. And that's been the difference of why aren't you driven to work these extra 5 hours today? And I'm like, well, I think we've probably done enough now. We've been here, and that's been quite hard to kind of navigate around. But I think we've both kind of adjusted, really. I've got more driven as I've understood the principles of business more, because I've not come from a business background at all, and understood that there has to be the whatever it takes element to it, because otherwise it's not going to succeed. But also for Jer to adjust the other way, to come to a place now where he's able to say, right, that he feels more content now, and that we can enjoy more things together, and actually just readjusting that balance. So it is about embracing both of our kind of understandings, the way we work, and like I said before, use them as superpowers rather than as things which cause angst and anxiety and stress and disharmony and all of those things. So it's been a brilliant journey, and I really do enjoy it every day, because every day is different. Every day is a challenge. We learn something new every day. We're able to help others learn something new every day. And it feels like we're in a really, really good place, business-wise, emotionally wise, and all of those things. And I think the exciting thing is that we know that this is just where we are now, and that there's so much more to come. There's so many more things that we will implement, with your support, your help, with working with people in the DMA community who are all absolutely awesome. And I love the journey. I love the journey.
JT,
I would say one of the, oh, go on, Jer.
Just being invited onto this podcast is another example. And I genuinely feel really emotional, wobbling at the moment. It's like hearing Ginny say that is, it takes me back to 6 years ago, sat in that room with 500 other people starting their property education journey. And okay, we're going to do it. And I remember saying to Ginny, because you said, Ginny, Jay, you've got to do this. And I said to Ginny, no, we've got to do this.
Well, I didn't know what I was letting myself into. Yeah.
Number one regret.
and it's like, and I remember saying that because we were quite new into our relationship, and it was like, okay, we're teachers. When I met Ginny in teaching years ago, do you know, I was very impressed with how she took on, and how her role to her how she was in life, the work-life balance, the work ethic, do you know, how she communicated, and just thought, wow, okay, she's gonna be awesome at whatever she chooses to do. But we were both institutionalized at that point. We were teachers and been in that system. And at 6 years ago, or just over 6 years ago now, to make that decision and to look at the journey of how of course, do you know, I'm not going to sit here and say it's all been perfect and we haven't clashed, but we've learned from every time that we've clashed. And because we've been able to understand, do you know, why we've clashed, we've actually worked really hard to turn that round now and to be a positive. And one of the things I think you said was, when you do your mentoring sessions, you always ask that fatal question, which is, oh, how are you guys doing? And now for Ginny, she'd probably say, okay. But that for me is license to open up for about 10 minutes. Blah, 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 blah. And, do you know, it's then your answer generally, and this is where Ginny and I have both worked on reframing things, because sometimes in your mind, oh my word, there's a calamity and there's all these different, not issues, they are just challenges. But if you can reframe them, and 9 times out of 10, when I blurted for you for 10 minutes, you used to say, yeah, okay, that's cool. That's the way it works. That's fine. And it was a complete and utter, okay, I've just been
Let's
told.
get on with it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. See you next week then.
Thanks,
And away you
Jackie.
go. Now, that's belittling your mentoring, obviously, but it was that change in your mindset, that change of thought that, okay, that's all right. And nothing had changed with the circumstances or the challenges other than the way that we were thinking about it.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
really, it was like to characterize it as like realizing that none of that, yeah, that's all happening, that's all normal. We've gone through that, or maybe we're even going through that, and actually that's not a problem. So what's the most important thing that we've got to then deal with? But it being, yeah, because I remember you used to have like big spider diagrams of all of the problems, and it was just like, here's the
I
whole list
still
of
have them,
problems that we've.
Jackie. I still
You
have
do,
them.
yeah.
I still
They're
have
list,
them.
they're not as front and center as they used to be. Like I used to be sent many more spider diagrams,
Yes.
but like I think you're more able, and I think it was you really trying to get out the massive list of problems that had to be solved for you to be okay, and
Yeah.
kind of now realizing that, oh, actually I had these problems and I am okay. Actually, I need to solve the problems to be okay. So which is the most important one for us to move forwards on? And I do think that letting go of that has given you like a lot more clarity about the most important thing to put your attention on, which before I think all of it felt super important and all of equal importance to be resolved at that very moment.
Jackie, because I was thinking about that, and you've encapsulated that perfectly, because all of that was spinning around in my mind, all of those web diagrams, those spider diagrams, those whiteboards, that's what's jammed in my head. And when I was away, I'd needed to speak to Ginny every morning just to unload the stuff in my head.
And that was really hard, because then that was loading me. And as an accumulator, as a Lord, I can't actually process all of that information, because I'm already dealing with my own information and my own workload and my own things, especially when I was driving into school and Jer would be busy in North East Links with his offloading of where he is. And then I'm thinking, well, I've got to go and teach for a full day now. And, you know, there was a lot of overload at that point, I think, with
Ginny, I'm formally on Jackie's podcast apologizing for that period of time, which probably went on for about 18 months or 2 years. But worse than that, Jackie, was because it was jammed in my head and I had it there all day, every day, and I was working 14-hour days, 15-hour days, driving 7 hours. I thought I was working hard. Well, I was working hard. I was. It was really hard work. But was I working clever? Was I focused? No, no. And that's for anybody starting off, is if you can grasp that. That was one of the biggest learnings, or the things that you taught us, was stay focused. Know who you are. You know how you work, but stay focused and make sure that you're reviewing your targets, your goals, your actions every single week. But the things that you don't do, don't focus on those. Celebrate the things that you do, And I'll give you an example. So we spoke this morning, didn't we, about Christmas and December coming up. And every year since I can remember, I've had to cut off on Christmas Eve because I've got a list as long as my arm and it's just jammed in your head. Well, if you accept that, if you accept that it's going to be there, if you select the things that you want to get done and you have a cut off, and I think Ginny said she has that level of contentment, she can do it. It used to drive me wild, but I've learned now from Ginny that yeah, if you can get to that stage, let's be realistic about it. Just because there's Christmas, things aren't going to change in the new year. It's
No,
Doesn't mean
no.
you got to clear the decks. I don't know if I sent actually a voice note to the group this morning along a very
Heard
similar
it.
lines.
I
Did you?
heard it. Yes.
Yeah,
And
basically, like, just accept you're not going to get the list done before Christmas. That list is never going to be done. And I think that just that acceptance of, you know what, yeah, I'm just going to park that chaos. I'm going to go have a lovely Christmas and I'll come back up and I'll pick up parts of that chaos and move those forwards. And I'm not going to wait for happiness to the bottom of that to-do list. Sorry, Ginny, I cut you up.
No, exactly. And I think, and that is it. It's about trying to get to a point where you can accept it. And your voice note this morning was really a really good reminder. And I think Jerry and I had spoken about this earlier in the week. And I said to him, so do you remember this time last year, Jackie said to us all that we needed to wind down throughout the whole of December and take that time to just regroup and hibernate to a certain extent and all of those things. And how important it was that we actually rested and had some good times with our families and all of those things. And I said, do you remember Jackie saying that? And we agreed that we did. So your voice note this morning actually reinforcing that was brilliant timing. And it is so true, because without that rest, without that recuperation and regrouping, you just don't have time to really grow, because I feel that you just reach that level of tiredness. You lose focus because you're just scrabbling around to try and knee-jerk on everything that comes in. Everything feels like a crisis because you're tired and you can't actually get to it. So, it goes back to everything that we've been learning about time mastery and learning tools to become much better at managing time, which on one level sounds very simplistic, and people, well, I certainly thought at the beginning, oh, well, that's easy. You just block your day. You just put dates in your diary. You just make a list. You just, have a lunch period in the day and you just finish at 5 o'clock. And on one level, that is time management, but actually learning about the deeper things to do with time and why we put so much pressure on ourselves to work 10-hour days and if we don't work 10-hour days, we're not working hard. And that comes from a real embedded kind of place from early days, doesn't it? If, you need to work really, really hard to be
you're not worthy unless you work in 12-hour days.
Exactly. And to lose that guilt and the feelings of overwhelm and what that actually means, and actually why do we get overwhelmed? What causes that level of stress and anxiety? And really learning a lot of the tools that you and Dave and Dom are really working hard with us on now. And, going to the retreat this year was mind-blowing in that respect, because I think that took everything that we've been saying to a whole new level. In coming from wealth dynamics was a great practical tool to start us on the journey of understanding some fundamental differences in how we approach things, but to really now get to that deeper place of, wow, this is actually really deep. This is actually, part our makeup and our emotions and the limiting beliefs and all of those things, which we're gradually starting to unravel, which is putting us into a much better place to enjoy the journey, to accept the things that don't always go as well as we might like, but just to be able to help us achieve that place of joy far more easily than coming from a place of feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, blaming time, and all of those things. So yes, for me, it's great. It's great. I love the learning that goes alongside it, without a doubt, and I love the implementation. And I think we've talked about, falling off the wagon sometimes with these things that we're implementing, but it doesn't matter. It's knowing that it's there underneath and that we can get back on the wagon at any time. Now,
What was the classic line that came up last week? You've fallen off the wagon, but the
it's still
wagon's
parked outside.
Yeah. The wagon's still there and I can still see it, so that's okay.
Yeah, and I'll get him to wash it while it's parked there.
Jackie, I think, can I just add one more thing about working with your partner?
Yeah,
Because
please do.
it has been an amazing journey, and I am so excited about the next steps because it felt like, to start with, bizarrely, I felt I was further ahead with personal development and books that I'd read. But what I've learned over the last 6 years is, because I was closed to that for such a long time, Ginny had a very much more natural, grounded base. And actually, Ginny's accelerating past me now. And it's been, and that's awful because you can't measure it.
You
But
can't measure it.
No.
Yeah, she's catching up. Great
yeah,
guns alongside each other, you know.
absolutely. And that is so exciting to be part of. And I think the expression, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And that is so true. Unless you choose to change it, unless you physically, mentally, spiritually, psychologically choose to go and alter the way that you think about things, do you know, it's been like that. And it's like, I look back, and when I said to Ginny, I really need, and I was really serious 6 years ago about actually wanting to be in a relationship with somebody who doesn't have to think the same way, but has an openness to developing themselves, an openness to change. Because for me, it was so important, and it's continued to be, and actually developed, that I just can't get enough. And I want to be here, there, and everywhere, and filling my mind with new stuff and learning new stuff. But it's been an absolute epic journey so far, and
And you're just getting started. You know, I
exactly.
think like, it's great to watch a couple go through it together, because I think when one couple is part of a couple is like very open and learning new things and basically realizing that most of my problems in life are a problem with me and how I'm relating to life, not the external world. I think if one of you starts to make that shift to taking that personal responsibility and the other isn't in that same place, I can imagine that's a very challenging dynamic. But I think when you're both in it together, as Dave and I are, like realizing all the pain that we're causing ourselves and like supporting each other on that journey of discovery, but no longer taking responsibility for the other person in that same way. It's just like yeah, like we're just partners in life, and we're going through the crap together and the highs and the lows, and we're learning and we're failing and we're picking ourselves up and we're going again. It's just like, it feels so much more like what it's all actually meant to be about.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think seeing you and Dave as well, and like we were saying at the beginning, I think the first time that I saw you, Jack, was on a podcast. No, it wasn't it was on a Zoom. It was a local property investment group Zoom, and you were in a ski resort somewhere. I think you'd been snowed in at that point, and were there for a long time. And I'd come along to this Zoom.
No, it was COVID, wasn't it? You were actually locked down
Yeah,
in
that's
the
what I
Alps.
mean. To this network.
I got stuck there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
I immediately thought this woman has it right. But I think that was when we were in quite a lot of, and I use the word chaos because we were deal selling, I was teaching, and there was lots of things going on. We had the lettings running underneath it. We had buy refurbish refinance projects going on. There was loads going on. And just seeing you at that event virtually, I literally came off that meeting, and I said to Jer, there was this amazing woman on this event last night. We need her. And it was just from that moment of yes. And then coming from a place where you started with us, and it was all about strategy and business and the steps and the sections and everything else, which was absolutely brilliant. And that was a great tool to get us to where we got. But then to see the other things that you've implemented and to be on that journey with you guys has been absolutely brilliant, and we're loving it.
And I'm loving watching it. And I think it's really great to know that we're all still like on the path and on the journey. I actually realize more, no one's got it sorted, right? Like everyone's dealing with their own challenges, and it's more just how we deal with it that is actually what matters, because that's then the tools for life. Like I think even thinking about the whole like working with your partner and thinking about you guys over the last year, like bringing it to more of the near term stuff, I think it's been really interesting. I think that you spoke about wealth dynamics at the start and like learning about your kind of natural flow and where your roles are best meant to be. which I think you really leaned into. But I really feel the last year has been a shifting in gear again in terms of
Mm,
going, we've got our own roles, but it means that we can really lean into our own roles and stop trying to do everything together and make all the decisions together. And I think that has been a big shift over the last year. I think there's probably still further to go, even still. But what was the conversation we had the other day, Jer, where it was like, you know what, you can do the strategy. You don't have
Yeah.
to get Ginny to sign off every single part of the strategy. You were like, what? Oh my God, freedom is mine. So maybe
I
and
just
I've
talk a
played
been
little bit about
reminded of
that.
that several times.
I've I've played on that. I've been out in the garage on the whiteboards for hours on end, I tell you. But it's productivity, JT, right? And
Yeah.
we've probably doubled our output because we've let go of that thing and we've got clear delineated roles and responsibilities. But also we've got a rhythm now in our life, and we haven't got a huge team. Do you know there's two administrators that work closely with us, and we've got a team of people that support us with the lettings. But there's a rhythm now that's being in, and it's not perfect, but it's a rhythm. And do you know, then we got a rhythm for everybody else. And Ginny and I had detached a little bit, and it was like we've got back into that habit of opening the office door and shouting in, "Oh, I need this!" And when we're in the middle of a call, so okay, we've got our huddles now 3 times a week, and we've got our level 10 that we'd come to you, and we've been clashing on the level 10 because we've been putting it off and whatever. And it's little tweaks, and it's not still not perfect, but we know now, and we're becoming more autonomous of recognizing this, and whether we go and meditate to find the solutions, or whether we go, no, that's a simple, that's a Pomodoro. Let's use that tool to support.
Mm, mm,
And
Mm.
it's slowly, and this is the most wonderful thing, that Ginny came up with the name Sowena 6 years ago. We nearly let Sowena go as we were building an HMO management company with a joint venture partner. But for whatever reason, that didn't work out. So Sowena's back, and it feels like we're almost nurturing a baby now. And it's like it's creating this life form, which, do you know, it is really starting to build. And as soon as you see that, and you can almost run and embrace the chaos. And I think that was a word that I had no idea. But when you're in chaos, actually, it's feeling better now because you've got to be
Mm.
in that growth stage, and you've got to. What did you say to me? Can I take on another? I came to you, didn't I? Because I wanted another member of the team, and you said, "Well, yeah, you can, but you don't love money, do you? You really don't love money." And it was like, no, I wanted this so nice and so easy, and I wanted everyone to be. So it's embracing all of that, and it's really an exciting bit of this journey now, because even though I'm now getting the tools and we're creating this life form, I'm actually coming to terms in my own mind of what it is that I'm driving towards. And I'm starting to be more realistic with my hairy-assed audacious goals. I'm being more realistic with my 12-month goals. Do you know, now you've given me carte blanche to do this on a regular basis and bring it to Ginny, I'm almost backing down. It's not a challenge anymore. It's not, I've got to get X number of properties. Financial freedom is wonderful, is fantastic. But for now, it's the emotional freedom, because that's off the back of that retreat. It was an absolute game changer for me. And I know for Ginny, I'm not speaking for her, but I know it was for you.
And what was that main takeaway then that you had in terms of that emotional freedom? Like just put a few more words around what that shift has been and how you've made that change.
I think for me, it was that deeper understanding, because I think coming from a teaching background, and I don't want to harp on about this too much, but it's just exemplary. It allows me to sort of demonstrate what I'm trying to say, that coming from that background, where I think the only word you can use to describe it is relentless. And I think it's one of, as with anything, unless you're actually in it, you don't know what it's like. But
You thought you had PTSD, didn't you, for 18 months after you left teaching?
100% I did. Yeah, absolutely. Because you have such ingrained behaviors when you're in that kind of environment of just jumping from one thing to the next, never finishing anything properly. You go to work to teach, but you don't have time to do all the other stuff that goes alongside it. So there's always that clash, and it just doesn't stop. It is relentless. And I think coming from that place, I was very conscious of I think I realized how tired I was when I actually came out of teaching and moved into property full time. And although I do get tired now, I don't get anywhere near as tired as I used to when I was a teacher. And I think for me, a lot of my kind of maybe it is a limiting belief, is all about protecting my energy and making sure that I don't get to that place again of being really, really, really exhausted and coming from a place where I've got energy. I'm not going to get to a place where I feel that my capacity is so restricted that I can't actually function. So the retreat was awesome in that respect because it focused on time as a whole concept and why we put so much pressure on ourselves in terms of time, and why we put so much pressure on ourselves in terms of having to work so many hours a day, and the overwhelm, and where that all comes from, and all the stresses that actually cause those feelings of stress. But giving us tools to go away with and to experiment with. And meditation for me, I've talked to you long about this, Jackie. Meditation for me hasn't been a massive shift for me. I am using meditation more now and finding it really beneficial for lots and lots of different reasons. Certainly just for that period of mindfulness and slowing the brain down and giving time for thoughts and reframing things and changing state and all of those things. But also the implementation and the learning about things like when Rebecca Hill, and she talked about human design and understanding your blueprint. And this might be too much for this at this time, but it's the implementation of lots of different things, being open to different things that help you understand how you are more as a person and how you tackle things, how you work through things. But being able to bring that into the business as well has made an absolutely huge difference for us. For me, certainly.
You started off, Jackie, by saying it's three. I think you said three words: focus, peace, and joy. And that's that retreat. And we have done two other workshops with you, one in Italy and one in Kent. But it's like that compound effect, and this one was just massive. I go back to you only get it when you get it. But I think the previous ones, I'd gone the same perfectionist route. I've got to come away and it's got to be perfect. And I've got to take away 110 different things. I'm going to implement them all. And no, you never are. You never. But actually, I surrendered it to this year of let's go, let's enjoy. We had 3 days in Assisi in this wonderful place. And I didn't intentionally go there thinking about focusing on peace and joy. But it was exactly that. And we had lots of takeaways. And Ginny, can I say as well, with this meditation, you've started and we've both got good, positive morning routines. But Ginny is the most peaceful, joyous person that I have ever come across. And, it used to
I think you're exaggerating, Jay. You've seen me very unpeaceful and unjoyous at times. But
yeah, but generally speaking, her family have camped and they've camped for years, and they will go to a field, set up tents, get deck chairs out, pour a glass of Prosecco and sit in this deck chair. And I would turn up and go, what are you doing? What are we going to do? Where are we going to go? And they go, nowhere. What do you mean? And they are sat and they're not even talking to each other. And they're like, but that is meditation, right? That's meditation. And they're looking at things like the horizon. They're looking out to sea. They're looking and finding joy in every single moment. And for me, I've needed meditation. And once I'd realized that you can use meditation for all sorts of different purposes, for solving problems, for just connecting to the universe, for calming your mind, being grateful for things.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I think that's progress for me because I was fully on board, and I want to get to, what was it, Jay Shetty that said that everyone in the world should meditate for a minimum of an hour a day, unless, of course, you're a really busy person, and in which case you should meditate for 2 hours a day. Yeah. And I didn't get that to start with, and you only get it when you get it. And there was another dawning of, okay, I'd really like to build up to an hour a day, maybe not all in one hit, but you get you use the tools then to support the bigger picture, but stay focused on creating peace and joy. And do you know, Ginny and I have moved out to the countryside in a very, what you could say, and I would watch this podcast back and think 10 years ago, I wouldn't be speaking like this. If you'd said to me, you're going to get a property in the field surrounded by horses, and you're sat on the beach within 5-minute drive, and you're meditating for an hour a day and looking for more, you're finding peace and joy. And it's a complete revelation to where I was 10 years ago. But also that's cool as well. And I don't look to beat myself up. I taught for 20 years, and there was part of me that thought, oh, I should have got into property quicker and got this financial freedom quicker. But no, that 20 years worth of teaching got me the skills and into the position that I was to do what I wanted to do. And then the last 6 years of a lot of hard grind, learning. You meet people for a reason. We met you guys, and it's developed. And actually, what is it that's driving? Ginny said about, we just use time as an excuse, and 100%. And for me, I'm now understanding terms like living your best life, whatever that might mean. And yes, I could sit here and say, yeah, I could do with another 4 holidays a year and 5 do this, and it will come if that's what we choose to focus on.
Yeah. And so I think obviously you guys have mentioned meditation a lot today, and I think a lot of people are like either like, oh, I don't need meditation, maybe as we all were a few years ago, or I kind of think that I might need it, but how to get into it. I wonder, Jer, because I feel like it sounds like it's a much more of a leap for you sitting down and meditating than it has been for you, Ginny. Like it's been a much harder shift in state. So like, Jer, maybe tell us, what do you do in your meditations, and any tips for people who are maybe wanting to try starting it?
Absolutely. If you want to try starting it, just use something that's simple. You can either log on. I think Headspace gives you a free membership for a month, and just try, because the best thing is, and I used to hear this a lot, is, well, I've tried meditation, but I can't keep getting thoughts in my head. And so I've given it up. But the general point is to get yourself into a place. I used to call it seduction, but I think Joe Dispenza calls it induction. And you just want to get yourself into a place where you're focusing either inside yourself or focusing on your breath rather than focusing on the voices in your head. And if you haven't read The Surrender Experiment or listened to it, please listen, because that's how he started this guy, and what a journey that guy had. So in practical terms, I would try 5 minutes a day, simple as that, 5 minutes a day. And Jackie, you and I have spoken long and hard about kind of organized, planned meditations, and people like Bob Proctor, who,
I love that voice.
Absolutely. And it's almost a meditation with a hypnosis in it, with that element. And that's what got me onto longer meditations. But then I started to get hooked on that. And it was really listening to Dom and yourself and Dave. And Dave I thought was especially good at some of the guided stuff. But then he set you off with a clear structure. And the first bit is the induction bit, where you want to get yourself into a state where you can connect with whatever you want to call it. I've been speaking to a lot of very religious people recently, and theirs is prayer, and mine is a more spiritual belief at this moment in time. And for me, it's about connecting to the spirit, to the universe, and actually using your meditation to do, like we said, one of 2 or 3 different things. One is if you've got a challenge, or one is speaking to the universe for asking for guidance. One might be just to settle and get in the most beautiful place where you haven't got all these things going on in your mind, and you come off the back of this very much more. And I don't want this to sound I'm doing this just because it helps the business, but it does help the business. But it actually helps me personally. It helps me, I think, in my relationship with Ginny, in my relationship with my kids. When I'm going to go into something that I perceive as challenging, quite often I'll meditate just for a few minutes before I go in. And it's become something that's been a really important part for me.
Really nice. Anything you would add to that, Ginny?
I think one of the things that I learned on the retreat, which really helped me, because I had been sort of really beating myself up about the whole meditation thing, because I just hadn't quite got to the place that Jerry's described now. And I think hearing Dom talk about meditation taking many forms, and it doesn't necessarily have to be what Jerry's describing, that it can be different things. And I don't want to use it as a cop-out, but I do think that for me, my meditation is the taking myself away and being able to spend time just going for a walk somewhere in nature on my own, just peace and quiet, tranquility, just slowing the brainwaves down enough to be able to create some clarity and some space in your mind to be able to come up with new things or to solve problems or to just think about things in a different way. It might be a long hot bath where you're just chilling, relaxing, again, slowing the brainwaves down. Journaling was another thing that Dom talked about, maybe not as a meditation, but as a way of being able to process the things that are going on in your head that may be jamming you up and causing anxiety, where you can just unload things, you can just get things down onto paper and clear the decks. I've actually been at home since Joe went away on Friday last week, and it's now Wednesday. So he's been away nearly a week. I've been here in this house in the countryside all on my own for that period of time. And of course, I've been out and seen people and, you know, for meetings and work and letting stuff, inspections and things. But I've been here on my own an awful lot. And I've actually absolutely loved that. And I feel like I have had real space, real calm. I feel like I've had a break in a way, because although I've been working really, really, really hard, there has been that space around me. And perhaps I feel like I have been in a bit of a meditative state for the last few days, because I've just had that opportunity to just worry about myself. I don't have music on, very rarely. I don't have anything on. I just enjoy that quiet, nothing else actually happening. So
the ocean, the sea is really important for you, isn't it?
the sea, yeah, getting in the sea, cold water swimming, that's been really, really, yeah, helpful for me as well.
Think you're right. It's basically we all have so much clutter going on in our minds, and it's our whatever way we can do to just get some
Yeah,
space from that and to be able to put the clutter and the noise down and come back to ourselves and just the calm and the peace that is always there, but that we can't see because we're so in it.
yeah,
And whatever tool
yeah.
we're going to use to do that, whether that's meditation or a walk or a swimming in the sea or whatever it may be, it's just like disconnecting from all the mayhem and realizing that actually everything's all good and nothing matters, and there's so many paths forward from this point.
Mm.
But
So
JT, the
I
other thing is,
go on.
the other thing for me was I tried to plan out the perfect morning routine. And seriously, just get started doing something. Just do it for 5 minutes. And there's things that we do that, okay, we won't do that again, or we won't do that again for a few months. But there's things that we do as well that, oh my, whoa, why didn't we do this before? And if you don't get started, you never know. Sorry to
So
interrupt.
true.
That's
No, no. So I'm thinking it'd be a really nice way to like bring this whole discussion together to come back to the focus, peace, and joy place that we started, and maybe from each of you guys just to have one key takeaway that you want people to take from this discussion when it comes to being focused in your business as the first area, what your key takeaway there would be. When it comes to peace in your relationship for how you work together, what your key takeaway would be, and how you make the whole process of doing it all as joyful as possible. So we'll just have like a power summary in each of those areas. So if we start with focus, what is the key takeaway that you want people to take off the back of today's session about focusing in your business?
Focus is about having clear goals and about knowing where you're going, whether it's a 5-year goal, whether it's a 1-year goal, whether it's a monthly goal, setting yourself something that you're actually working towards. And whether that's
Nice.
individually, for personal things, whether it's business things, whether it's individually or whether it's as a couple.
Yeah.
find out your profile. And it doesn't matter what profile you are, what Ginny just said, is absolutely critical, not just for business, but you can have goals for your life. You can have goals for your gym. You can have goals for physical, spiritual, whatever. But the key, I think, for maintaining focus is to celebrate the steps that you achieve on the way to achieving the longer term goals.
Really nice. And when it comes to peace in your working relationship along the way, Ginny?
It's got to come back to the being able to celebrate the successes, being able to enjoy what you're doing, be able to take the seriousness out of things, and to come back to a place of, yeah, this is great. We've got a great business. We've actually got a really good life, and celebrate that by making sure you build things in, whether it's for 10 minutes, whether it's for 3 hours, whether it's for a weekend, build things in that enable you to actually remind yourselves that this is meant to be a joyous thing. It's not meant to be a chore. It's going to be hard. There's going to be lots and lots of speed bumps along the way, but finding ways to actually bring in things which you can enjoy together and make the most of it.
Jer?
Create a rhythm, and it can be such a simple rhythm of touch points if you're working with a team, especially if you're working with your partner. Make sure everybody knows how that rhythm works. Don't expect the rhythm to be perfect, but it will slowly, if you keep implementing, it will get there. And I would say the things that scare you, or the things that you feel when you're in chaos, you should be running towards those. Those are the things that, on the other side of that fear, there are the most amazing things. And when you're in chaos, celebrate the chaos, get used to the chaos, but know that it won't always be that way if you choose it to be.
Nice. And for having the most joy along the way, Ginny, your key takeaway?
So joy is about when you feel that emotional response to being in a situation where you feel that you are at your happiest, I guess, isn't it? So it's about finding what that is, and whether that is going out for a nice meal, whether that's swimming in the sea, whether that's having a nice dinner at home, whether that's having your family around. Sort of find what those things are. Give yourself space to enjoy things as well, and don't give yourself space. Don't feel like you have to be jammed into things all the time. Just taking time out for yourself can bring some inner contentment and joy, and really get to know yourself as well. And if people haven't already, start to look at things like meditation, start to look at things like human design, start to look at things like wealth dynamics as a starting point if it's more of a business kind of thing that you're looking for, and learning to appreciate the small things, that the successes don't have to be huge things. Really appreciate the small things, the little things, which actually will help to build that whole kind of feeling of joy along the way. And just enjoy it, embrace it, enjoy every day. It's a journey. All of those cliches which we all know and love. We just need to all get better at actually taking those things on board.
Nice. And Jer?
I love the fact you said it's a journey, but it is a life's work. My mum told me that at about 10, and I know that's been a limiting belief in my head, because no, I don't want to work for a whole life to be happy. It's like, okay, and I misinterpreted it. I think joy and happiness, that it's actually a choice, and it's the inside game. It's getting the spiritual side, it's getting the mental side, and getting into a good routine where you're looking after yourself. It is about success and learning. I think that's a really big one. I think when you did JT, you talked about down valuations for one of the first ones. And for us, our first down valuation, it was like I've been run over. It was like, oh my God, it's the end of the world, and what's going to happen? And yeah, you wouldn't choose it, but also it's part of the game. And actually, what is the worst that's going to happen? So for me, it's about the joy and finding joy in everything that you do. If not, change what you're doing, because it ain't right. And we've always got a choice. End of.
Beautifully said. Oh, amazing. We've been to so many different places as part of this conversation. So thank you for sharing so openly your journey and the things that you've discovered along the way. You've really shared some amazing things that's going to make a big difference to people's perception of how they are moving forward on their own journey. So thank you so much, you guys. Keep going with that focus, the peace and the joy. And I look forward to seeing what happens next over the years to come. I love you guys. Oh, just love Ginny and Jer. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. If you are not already connected with Ginny and Jer and Sowena Property on social media, their links are in the show notes, and their website is www.sowena-lets.co.uk. Definitely do reach out if you're based in mid Cornwall and you are a landlord who's currently dissatisfied with how your property management is going. So this time next week, I am going to be joined by my gorgeous husband Dave, and we are talking about freedom killers. So what are those things that block you from ultimately getting the freedom that you desire? And I think it's often not what people think. So going to be a great episode. So until then, have a great week ahead.